In a world where science explains nearly everything, there remain corners of humanity still cloaked in silence, where ancient words are whispered under moonlight and rituals long forbidden are performed in secrecy. Across forgotten villages, shadowed temples, and remote mountains, these remnants of old-world magic persist, carried out by those who claim to guard powers older than civilization itself. To outsiders, they are myths or relics of superstition, but to those who've witnessed them, they are anything but stories. Every ritual holds a purpose: protection, vengeance, love, or immortality. And yet, all share a common thread: the price they demand in return. The first of these rituals originates from the Carpathian Mountains, a place where mist never truly lifts and silence feels alive. Known as the binding of blood and stone, this ritual was once practiced by secret pagan sects who believed that every human soul could be tied to an earthly object. Performed beneath a waning moon, a stone was marked with the sigil of the participant's name, written in blood, then buried beneath the roots of an ancient oak. The believer thought that as long as the stone remained hidden, their body would resist death. But legend says that if the stone was ever unearthed, or worse, broken, the soul of its owner would rot while they still breathed. Archaeologists have uncovered such stones near abandoned villages, the inscriptions faded but still faintly visible, as if the names refused to be forgotten. In a remote valley in the highlands of Peru, another ritual has endured through generations. It is known as El Silencio del Alma, the silence of the soul. It begins at midnight, when the air is cold and the stars seem to flicker closer to the earth. The ritual demands total isolation. Participants sit within a ring of salt for 3 nights, forbidden to speak, eat, or even acknowledge the outside world. On the final night, a shaman chants the ancient hymn of return, believed to open a bridge between the living and the dead. Those who complete the ritual claim to hear whispers of lost ancestors in their dreams. But others say the silence never leaves them, that even after returning to society, they hear nothing, not even the sound of their own heartbeat, as if part of their soul was left behind in that circle of salt. Far to the east, in the rain-soaked jungles of Indonesia, there exists a ceremony so secret that even locals speak of it only in fragments. It is called the Night of Mirrors. The participants, always 7, no more, no less, gather deep in the forest, each holding a mirror that reflects the light of a single candle. As the chant begins, the candles are extinguished one by one until only the moon remains as witness. The purpose is said to be a confrontation with one's true self. But legends warn that if a participant fails to hold their reflection without fear, the mirror will shatter and the person will vanish. Some believe they are pulled into the mirror itself, trapped within their own reflection for eternity. In several remote regions, explorers have found rusted fragments of mirrors tied to trees with crimson cloth, perhaps tokens left to appease whatever looks back from the other side. In the deserts of North Africa, whispers still circulate about the rite of the black sand, a ritual passed down among nomadic tribes centuries ago. It was said to be invoked during times of great drought or death, when hope had already perished. The ritual required mixing desert sand with the ashes of the deceased, then letting the wind carry it across the dunes while reciting a plea to the spirits of the storm. The ritual was meant to summon rain, but according to travelers' diaries from the 1800s, it often brought something else: violent sandstorms that devoured entire caravans. Modern historians dismiss these tales as coincidence, but those who live close to the desert say otherwise. They claim that when the sky turns orange and the air hums like thunder, the spirits have answered again. Deep within the forests of Eastern Europe, a practice known as the Feast of the Hollow Moon has re-emerged in recent years among underground occult groups. Its origins trace back to the Middle Ages, when famine and plague drove entire villages to desperation. During this ritual, participants gather in silence, offering a meal of bread, salt, and raw meat to an unseen entity they call the guest. The table is left untouched until dawn, when, if the ritual is accepted, the food is said to have vanished completely. Those who've claimed to attempt it report strange phenomena: claw-like marks on the wooden tables, the air heavy with the scent of iron, and shadows that stretch toward them even when no light remains. The ritual is said to grant power over hunger, yet every account ends with the same warning, that the guest never leaves once it has been invited. On the coast of Japan, fishermen still speak in hushed voices about the curse of the water lanterns. It began as a simple tradition to honor the dead, setting paper lanterns afloat on the sea. But when performed under certain constellations, the ritual changes its meaning entirely. Those who seek vengeance for a lost loved one mark a name on the lantern, not of the dead, but of the living. When the flame flickers and dies before reaching the horizon, The marked person is said to meet a watery death within days. Authorities dismiss the drownings as accidents, yet locals know to never light a lantern with a stranger watching. Fishermen say the sea remembers every name it swallows. In the ancient hills of Romania, the final ritual still draws fear even among those who pretend not to believe. Known simply as the Whispering Circle, it is said to be older than Christianity itself. Performed by midnight gatherings of 12, it requires each member to stand hand in hand around a circle of stones engraved with symbols no scholar has fully decoded. At the center burns a black flame, a mixture of herbs, animal fat, and oil said to attract the voice beyond. Those who stand within the circle claim they can hear the future, but the price is cruel. Once the flame dies, one member disappears, their name erased from memory. Villagers nearby sometimes wake to find new circles of stones where none existed the night before, perfectly aligned with the stars, and in the center, ashes still warm, as if the ritual had just ended moments ago. The power behind these rituals lies not in their spectacle, but in the silence that surrounds them. They survive not because people boast of their success, but because those who witness them rarely speak again. In remote monasteries, closed cults, and forgotten villages, the knowledge is preserved like fire hidden beneath ashes, alive, but waiting for the right moment to burn once more. Anthropologists who have investigated these practices often describe a strange contradiction. The deeper they explore into the past, the more they find traces of the same ceremonies repeating across different civilizations, as if humanity itself were haunted by the same symbols and fears, reborn under new names throughout the centuries. One of the most disturbing rituals still whispered about today comes from the mountains of northern Greece. It is called the Rite of the 13th Bell. It was once performed in secret monasteries that no longer appear on maps. The ritual was said to open a doorway between the mortal and the divine. 13 bells were hung in a perfect circle, each made from a different metal, representing the elements of life and death. When struck in the correct sequence, they produced a sound that was said to disturb the balance between the worlds of the living and the unseen. According to legend, this sound summoned a presence known only as the Watcher. The monks believed that this entity could grant forbidden knowledge, but only at the cost of one human soul for each ceremony. After several unexplained disappearances during the 17th century, the monasteries were sealed by royal order. Yet travelers in those mountains still report hearing the faint ringing of bells echoing through the valleys, though no human settlement remains within miles. Across the ocean, deep in the dense forests of Appalachia, European settlers carried fragments of ancient folklore and magic from the old continent. Among these remnants was a dark ceremony known as the naming of shadows. The ritual was deceptively simple but filled with danger. A candle was lit in an empty room, and the participant would whisper the names of their enemies into the flame while holding a personal object belonging to the target, such as a piece of clothing, hair, or soil from their footprint. It was believed that as the candle melted, the victim's life energy would weaken. In some accounts, the candle would extinguish itself before burning completely, a sign that the curse had succeeded. Early 20th century police archives contain reports of unexplained illnesses and deaths in rural communities, often following rumors of secret nighttime gatherings. Locals refused to discuss these events openly, convinced that even speaking of the ritual could awaken its curse. Far from these forests, in the sacred foothills of the Himalayas, another forbidden ceremony continues to be feared. It is known as the Breath of Kali. The ritual is practiced only on the night of a lunar eclipse by certain tantric sects devoted to the goddess of destruction and rebirth. The practitioner sits at the center of a circle of fire, surrounded by ash made from burnt offerings of spices, flowers, and blood. The ritual seeks transcendence, to break the illusion of mortality and unite the soul with the divine force of the goddess. But the danger lies in the chant itself. Every breath must align perfectly with the rhythm of the fire. If the mind wavers, even for a moment, the participant suffers what the ancients called losing breath, a state where the body continues to breathe, but the spirit becomes trapped between the worlds. Witnesses have described initiates collapsing mid-chant, their eyes wide open and unblinking, as though trapped in another reality. Temples that once practiced this ceremony now stand in ruins, yet offerings of garlands and incense still appear on their altars, as if the goddess continues to listen from the shadows. Each of these practices exposes something deeply rooted in human nature, the desperate desire to command what lies beyond understanding. Beneath every chant, every sacrifice, and every whispered name lies the same longing, to defy death, to rewrite fate, to hold dominion over fear itself. And though most of the modern world has turned towards science and reason, There are still those who believe that the universe hides its secrets behind terror, and that enlightenment belongs only to those willing to confront it. Even now, somewhere in the world, in a candlelit basement or a silent forest, someone repeats the old words, trusting that ancient power will answer again. The question that remains is whether the danger lies within the ritual itself, or within the human heart that refuses to let it die. Throughout history, humanity has always searched for control over what it cannot see: death, destiny, and the unknown forces that govern existence. The most secret rituals were never created for spectacle or worship. They were born from desperation. When plagues destroyed cities, when crops failed, when war tore families apart, people turned to the old ways. Methods passed down through whispers, symbols carved into stone, and prayers not meant for any god. These rituals were answers to fear, promises of power, and dangerous bridges between the physical and the spiritual. In the cold valleys of Eastern Europe, there is still talk of the Black Wedding. This ritual was never performed for love, but to confront death itself. When epidemics swept through villages, a man and a woman, both strangers, were chosen to marry in a cemetery at midnight, surrounded by the graves of the recently deceased. The belief was that their union would confuse death, binding his path and forcing him to release the souls he had claimed. The couple was forbidden to ever see one another again after the ceremony. Some historians claim this ritual was last performed during the great cholera outbreaks of the 19th century, yet villagers still leave wreaths of white flowers on unmarked graves as offerings, fearing the day the Black Wedding might be needed once more. Another ritual, hidden deep within West African tradition, is called the Night of Whispers. It was practiced by secret societies that believed words carried energy strong enough to command spirits. The ritual required initiates to spend a night buried up to their necks in the earth while elders chanted over them. It was said that those who endured the night without calling out would awaken with borrowed sight, a gift allowing them to see truth in dreams. But those who broke their silence would lose their voice forever. Ethnographers who studied these practices often found the same chilling detail in local accounts. The earth, where the initiates were buried, would sometimes tremble softly, like something alive beneath it was listening. From the mountains of Greece to the deserts of Africa, from the jungles of Asia to the forests of America, these ancient rituals remind us that fear is timeless. They may differ in name, language, and symbol, but all are bound by the same belief: that reality can be bent by will, and that power always demands a price. What is most disturbing is not that such rituals once existed, but that some still do, carried out under the same moon, in the same silence, by those who still believe the old gods never truly left. Even in the 21st century, when satellites map every corner of the earth and science explains what was once considered divine, these forbidden rituals continue to survive. They move quietly, like a shadow beneath civilization, hidden in basements, remote temples, mountain shrines, or the hearts of those who believe the world still holds secrets too powerful for reason. For some, they are remnants of forgotten cultures. For others, they are living proof that not all ancient powers have faded. And perhaps that is what makes them so dangerous. Because once a ritual is remembered, it can never truly die. It waits, patiently, for someone desperate enough, or curious enough, to try it again. Historians, anthropologists, and occult researchers all agree on one unsettling fact. Every time society tries to bury these practices, they resurface in a new form. A chant becomes a song. A sigil becomes a tattoo. A ritual becomes a trend, stripped of its meaning yet somehow still alive. That is how old magic survives, not through temples or priests, but through memory itself. And those who underestimate it often become part of its story. Whether these ceremonies truly hold power or are merely echoes of human fear, one truth remains. Mystery has always been stronger than knowledge, and curiosity has always been more dangerous than any spell. If you have watched until this point, thank you for joining this journey through the hidden world of forbidden magic. Every legend, every ritual, every whisper passed through time carries a reflection of us, our fears, our desires, and our endless need to understand what lies beyond. If you believe that history still hides truths too strange to ignore, make sure to subscribe and stay with us, because there are still countless mysteries waiting to be uncovered. And as you turn off the light tonight, remember this: the oldest rituals were never meant to be seen by many. Some were designed only for those willing to face what answers back when the world goes silent. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay curious, but tread carefully.